ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
It's been 50 years since the biggest scandal in Australian political history.
It really is one of the most extraordinary times ever seen in the national capital.
It's a gripping story about big egos and big mistakes. It's a love story, it's a spy thriller, and there are still secrets left to uncover.
There is a document which is still under lock and key. They will not release it.
You can hear the ABC's award-winning podcast on the whole saga right now. Search for The 11th on the ABC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
If there was one thing you could change about your body, what would it be? Come on, no judgment here. That bald patch, those lines on your face. Since the first human beings saw their own reflection, we've seen faults. But now it's not the mirror we're turning to find out what's wrong with us. It's our phones. This is the first episode of a new 4-part series by Background Briefing. It's called Before and After. And it's about what happens when the internet tells you what's wrong with you and tries to sell you the solution. Our first story is reported by Ty King. Hey Ty, how are you?
Good, thank you, Tom. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Great to have you back in here. Where does your story start?
This story, it starts with an experiment. But before we get into it, I need to tell you that it touches on some serious stuff, including suicide, so please listen with care. Okay, I've just Googled hair loss treatment. I'm just going to click one of the top ones. That's me a few weeks ago. So now I'm looking at half a dozen drawings of a man's head with the hairline, and then there's the varying stages of hair loss, thinning at the back. I'm on the website of a telehealth company called Pilot, and it's asking me what best describes me. So I'm going to click this one. Pilot sells hair loss medication. Have you seen their ads? They're all over social media.
I've seen hair loss ads.
Hair loss is caused by a hormone called DHT. Pilot can help you block DHT and stimulate your follicles to get them growing again.
They are everywhere. I know, yeah, they're all over the place.
They've got thousands of 5-star reviews and about 90% of men see results. Click the link, do the quiz, get growing.
One of the key hair loss drugs they sell is called finasteride. It's marketed as this wonder drug, it'll give you a Hollywood hairline, it'll make you popular with the ladies. And many potential users know that this drug can cause erectile dysfunction and low libido, which the telehealth companies are upfront about. But I've been told there are other possible side effects that aren't mentioned.
Okay.
And so the purpose of my experiment is to see if that's the case, to see if they don't warn us. So I'm going through the process. Have I used hair loss medication before? No, I haven't. They ask you questions like, are you on any other medication? Then I upload some photos of my hair, the front and back. I am taking a photo. It's kind of hard to do while talking into the microphone, but here we go. And then I get a call from the consulting doctor. Hello, it's Ty. This is where you'd normally hear about side effects, right? And so I recorded the conversation, just my end. And so it starts much the same as the questionnaire does with, do I have allergies? Nope. Am I on other medication? Nope. And then the doctor says, based on the photos I submitted, that I'm recommended a combination of finasteride and minoxidil. Yeah, okay, cool. And then we get to the side effects. So I'm told about low libido, breast swelling, mood changes and erectile dysfunction, which can persist after stopping the drug. And I'm told that these are very, very rare. That's for finasteride. For minoxidil, I'm told about lesser side effects, like itchy scalp, irritation, that sort of thing. I'm also offered the option of taking finasteride orally in a capsule or topically. The topical... Does it have side effects of erectile dysfunction, or is it? The doctor says topical is safer, but most people choose oral because it's easier, and so that's what I go with. All right, thank you. Bye.
What happens then?
5 days later, this comes. And I've actually brought it in for you to have a look at, Tom.
All right, what do we got? Okay, so nondescript. There's nothing written on this box at all. It's a completely blank cardboard box, and in it we've got 3 boxes with finasteride, which is the tablet. So you didn't have to go to a pharmacy. You had that chat, and they mailed this out.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's all very, very quick.
Very quick. And I think, hey, well, maybe there'll be warnings about those other side effects in the leaflet, inside the packet. And if you look in that box, there's a QR code.
For more information on your medicine, scan the QR code.
Do you want to scan it, please?
Yeah, all right, let's do it. So there's a headline here, side effects, as you say. I've scanned the QR code. There's a whole lot of talk about erectile dysfunction, loss of libido, less desire for sex, but that's sort of it. So what other side effects you've heard about, Ty, that aren't included in the leaflet?
Well, there are a lot of different things that can happen, but the most serious ones I've heard about include anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. And these don't necessarily stop after you stop taking finasteride.
Okay, wow, so that does sound serious.
Yeah, it does. And to understand just how serious, I talked to multiple guys who say their lives were ruined after they took finasteride. That's how I met Andre Eid. It's 2022 and Andre is 25. He's living in Sydney and everything in his life is pretty good except for the fact that he's noticing his hair is thinning. He remembers these ads from back in the day about hair loss from the company Ashley and Martin. Remember them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they had ads on TV.
Yeah, so he's seen those ads and there happens to be an Ashley and Martin near his house. So he goes down and he chats to the staff there. Ashley and Martin told us that they explain potential adverse events to patients, but Andre says he's not warned about any persistent side effects, although he doesn't really study the fine print or anything like that. So he signs up and he's pumped. He thinks, I've got it early, there'll be no issues now. But 3 weeks later, he notices something.
The areola, the nipple area, for a guy, it's normally quite small. It's looked a bit enlarged for me.
He thinks it's weird, man boob sort of thing.
Yeah.
But he had a little bit of this in puberty, so he doesn't actually think that much about it.
He didn't think it was anything to do with the drug.
No, he doesn't. But then a few weeks later, when he's sitting down to do what young blokes do.
Right, yeah, I can see where you're going.
But I was, let's say masturbating at the time, and when I reached the point of, climax, I realised that there was no pleasure or anything associated. Like it was very bland. It was very almost muted. That was the immediate, something's wrong here. That was odd. I've never experienced that in my entire life.
He's taking a topical finasteride solution, so not the one you've got there in that box, the one I was sent. And like me, he was told that topical is safer, so he's not really connecting the dots at this point. But he's plugged into the wellness space, he's got lots of friends in the fitness industry, and so he asked them about finasteride and its side effects, and they say, yeah, hold on, Andre, there are some serious side effects that can happen pretty quickly with this stuff. And so what Andre does is he writes to Ashley and Martin.
Immediately sent them a cancellation email, probably in the week of, realising or coming to terms with this.
And he throws his meds away and he waits.
I'm assuming I'm going to come back. Initially did. So there was improvements, sexually. But then all of a sudden going to January to February, it just tanked completely.
He's one of those unlucky patients whose symptoms get worse after stopping the drug.
Wait, what? So he's now off the medication and things get worse?
Yeah, and not only that, he gets new symptoms, things he wasn't warned about months after he stops applying this drug. And one day at work, he's in the middle of an online presentation.
And midway through it, I just felt this, literally the stepping stone or the start of a panic attack. Had to, hop offline for a bit.
And that's very unusual for Andre.
I was the guy that would, charisma. I would carry the room. I'd, make you laugh. And ever since that particular incident, I've just had this fear of presenting, being in a room full of people having to present something, which is complete contrast to the person I was 5 years ago.
He becomes this shadow of himself.
I used to do acting. I used to do theatre performances. I was a very extroverted person socially. And I still am. There's still aspects of me that are still like that. But it's now accompanied with this anxiety.
And all this is made worse by the fact that he can't actually get any answers because, he's going to GPs and specialists, getting tests done, anything that'll help him try to figure out what's going on.
I went and asked for specifically a blood test for my DHT.
DHT is dihydrotestosterone, the stuff finasteride blocks.
I was told I couldn't have it. It couldn't be done.
He thinks that's weird because other guys have had it done. Some of the doctors he sees don't even know what he's talking about.
And they're also quite dismissive, mostly from GPs. Rude. Obviously, look, they've trained for 10 years. I respect it that you know stuff, you know more than me, but I'm explaining to you that I feel this way. And a lot of it will come down to it's in your head. So you kind of get gaslighted.
It must be frightening because not only can he not get answers, but he's gone off this medication. So he must be thinking, was it the finasteride? If so, what on earth do I do now? I'm not using the medication anymore and I'm still getting secondary effects.
It's terrifying, and he does what a lot of people do when they can't get answers. He turns to the internet.
Yeah, as you do.
And he looks up forums, Reddit, YouTube, all sorts of things. And he kind of finds two worlds. There are people saying that finasteride is safe, that it's a wonderful drug, that the side effects are a kind of mass hysteria, that it's all in their heads. But for every comment like that, he sees finasteride users also reporting side effects that are very similar to his. Things get worse once they stop the drug, less pleasurable orgasm, as well as a range of psychiatric symptoms. These guys, and there are thousands of them, Tom, they have a name for their condition. They call it post-finasteride syndrome, or PFS. Its existence is controversial, and some drug companies and researchers basically say it's not real, but other health researchers have started to embrace the term. Andre eventually finds an endocrinologist who takes him seriously.
I mentioned my symptoms. He did acknowledge that it was a thing. It's not like he was a young bloke. He didn't really dismiss it or anything, but he advised to me just give it time.
He's just prescribed erection dysfunction medication.
Erection dysfunction.
Yep. And
doesn't really address the panic attacks, the depression, the mental health issues at all.
That's right. He doesn't get any help with the psychiatric side of things.
Why is it easier for him to get a response to those sexual symptoms rather than the psychological ones?
Well, to understand that, it helps to understand a bit more about the drug itself. So finasteride blocks the enzyme that converts testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which is what causes male pattern baldness. It was invented by Merck, this big pharmaceutical company, way back in the 90s, and they called it Propecia.
Would you like a toupee, sir? Excuse me? Would you like some pate?
I'll never go back.
Thinking about hair loss? Stop just thinking about it. Call today.
Merck had to do safety trials when they brought the product to market, and that's how the sexual side effects end up on the packet right from the start.
And people seem to be aware of those ones.
Yeah, they are. GPs, telehealth doctors, everyone, they know about these. But depression and some of the other psychiatric side effects didn't emerge as a risk in the clinical trials. And so over the years, if a patient went to a doctor and said, hey, I feel depressed or I've got insomnia, I think it's because of this hair loss drug I've had for weeks. I'm not on it anymore, but I'm still feeling depressed. They have been historically dismissed or told that it can't be right. Eventually, by 2010, Merck begins acknowledging a link to depression and starts warning users about it, but it still rejects the idea of persistent, more serious psychiatric harms. So it's all a bit murky and confused, Tom. But then what happens is Propecia comes off patent in 2013, and so lots of other companies start selling generic versions.
So it's easier to get the drug. And so is this when we start to see concerns about persistent psychiatric side effects come to light? Do doctors start picking up on it?
Well, it's not really the doctors, but there is this other Australian guy who kind of sits up and realises there's something going on, and his name is Mitch Sabine.
Quite frequently you see this characterised in the media or medical literature as being primarily sexual symptoms, but we see symptoms across physical, neurological and sexual domains.
Mitch set up some of the online forums Andre was browsing after he had a negative reaction to finasteride. He's not a doctor, but he's worried about the stories he's hearing. One forum called Propecia Help has more than 7,500 members. Another, this subreddit, averages more than 8,000 weekly visits. And on these sites, people talk about their suspected side effects.
Things like severe overnight muscle wastage, like just, within a matter of days or weeks, just losing all muscle definition.
There's the physical ones.
Quite severe penile shrinkage, for example, or changes to the shape of their genitals.
There's cognitive ones.
Insomnia is a big one. Things like anhedonia, which basically means the inability to feel pleasure or reward.
And of course,
we see patients very frequently reporting quite severe anxiety, depression, and then suicidal ideation.
The forums are really popular. They get about 100 posts a month. There are new members joining all the time. You know, people realise they're not alone. There are these helpful hints, you know, how best to deal with particular side effects, all that stuff. But Mitch knows it's not going to change things. Like, it's helpful, but what these guys really need is rock-solid proof their condition exists. And so what he does is he kind of morphs these forums into a charity called the PFS Network, the Post-Finasteride Syndrome Network. The goal here is to get research going so they can figure out what on earth is going on. And so they start raising money to fund studies. And as of today, they've got 2 up and running.
Well, one group is looking into whether PFS is an epigenetic problem.
So that's trying to find out if there's a permanent change to the way someone's genes are expressed. They think this might explain why some side effects persist after stopping the drug.
And the other is doing a genetic study to see if there's any predisposing factors that may be involved that would predispose someone to developing the disease in the first place.
This is important too because it could help explain why a small number of men report these side effects while most don't.
It's quite extraordinary. It's crowd-funded medical research.
Yeah, it is.
And they're almost at this point now where they feel they have no choice. No one's listening. So it's power in numbers. They've got to unify and raise the money themselves. It's pretty amazing.
And I should say, I have seen criticism that advocacy groups shouldn't be funding research because obviously they have an interest in the findings.
Right, because they're fighting to convince people this is serious.
Exactly. But I mean, Mitch basically says we're picking up the work because others won't do it.
I think it's regrettable, frustrating that it's not drug manufacturers or regulators or the clinical community that are left to clean up the mess. It's patients themselves who are unfortunately have been given, a very clear message that it's up to them to figure this out.
But he says the PFS community is starting to get some validation. For example, earlier this year, the US health regulator, the FDA, it issued an alert warning against the possibility of persistent sexual dysfunction and depression linked to topical finasteride. So topical finasteride, Tom, that's what Andre was sold.
That's funny because that's the apparently more safe one.
That's right, yeah. And then really recently, like within the last 6 months, there's been a flurry of activity. The European regulator has confirmed suicidal thoughts are a side effect of finasteride tablets. In September, a major analytical review published in the Journal of Psychiatry concluded that finasteride can cause depression and suicidality even after the drug is discontinued. And it also found that there's been this 2-decade delay in recognising this. And then the most telling thing that's happened is the French health regulator has gone further than the European regulator and said that the benefit-risk ratio of finasteride for hair loss is now unfavourable.
Unfavourable? Wow, so that's a pretty big change, right?
It is. Basically what it means is that because this is a cosmetic drug, not a life-saving drug, the dangers, they just outweigh the benefits.
How serious can those psychological side effects get?
Well, really serious, to be frank. I actually found a story online that really brought this home to me. It's an essay published on the website Medium back in 2021, and I've asked an actor to read some of it out. It's from a Canadian man named Mark Turner. The essay documents his experience with post-finasteride syndrome.
On September 9th, little did I know I would make the worst decision of my life. I took my first dose of finasteride. In the 4th week, I started to experience brain fog, slowed thought process, feeling a little out of touch with my senses, some dizziness. Throughout the next month, I experienced a range of strange symptoms. I had days where I felt so exhausted, I literally felt like a 90-year-old man. One night, I crashed into horrible insomnia.
There are more than 4,500 words in this essay. They tell the story of an agonising 18 months.
Update. 7.5 months since my initial crash, and things have only gotten worse. Sleep has become completely dysfunctional, where I'm unable to sleep more than 1 to 2 hours at a time. Update: 9.5 months into this nightmare, and I continue to deteriorate. Update: 1 year in the depths of hell. I can honestly say there are things in this world that are worse than death.
Wow.
And Tom, it ends with, I love you all, we'll miss you, and I'm sorry for whatever impact this has on you.
Can I ask do we know what ultimately happened to him?
Yeah, so Mark suicided in 2022, about 18 months after first taking finasteride.
Wow, so he did. He ultimately did take his own life.
Yep.
And it sounds like through those blog posts has really blamed it
squarely
on the drug.
And so this essay, which essentially is a suicide note, was Mark's way of getting this out there to other men.
He said nobody should have to go through this. It was a living hell.
That's Denise, Mark's mum. I got in touch with her to try and understand why Mark left this essay behind.
He thought by documenting it somewhere, he would then be able to get this across in his own words and maybe help others, and also explain to people that he hadn't already told, explain to them as well.
What I learned is that Mark, this man who suicided, he was going to chat about his experience with Mitch, the guy we spoke to before, for his charity, the PFS Network. But he just wasn't up for it.
He was trying and saying, I really want to get this out there. But he just felt he couldn't do it. He said, every time I try to do it, I just start crying and I just can't do it.
There's a line in this essay where Mark says, when I finally get the courage to end this suffering, I will go down as a suicide, but I know that I was murdered. It's hard to prove definitively that Mark was right about the link between finasteride and his death. And that's because scientists don't currently have a clear test that can confirm it. And it's one of the reasons why Denise really wants to see more research in the area.
We don't know what's causing it. That's why we are looking into the research that's going on right now for answers. It's patients and families that are the only ones that are stepping up to this. And it's very hard to get answers right now and get the money for the research to get the answers.
And it's important for Denise because more information might have saved Mark's life.
If his doctor had told him of any of this type of thing, he definitely would not have gone on the drug. He didn't know the extent of the side effects, or especially that they could be permanent.
So what people are warned about before they get prescribed finasteride is important. And Tom, in Australia, it's really patchy. One of the reasons for that is that different manufacturers of the drug give different warnings. Like if you buy Propecia, which is the original finasteride that Merck invented, its product information will have a warning about depression and suicidal ideation. But if you buy the Viatris 1 brand from Pilot, that's the one you've got there in that box, you don't get that warning because it's made by a different manufacturer here in Australia. And to be clear, it's not Pilot's job to write product information. It's the company that actually makes the drug that has that responsibility. In any case, Pilot maintains that it does warn people about the risk of serious mental health side effects. The only reason they didn't tell me about them is because I said I didn't have a history of mental health problems.
I've got to say, it's pretty confusing. Why is it so inconsistent?
Well, I asked the Therapeutic Goods Administration about this. They're the body in charge of regulating medicine in Australia. And they said it shouldn't be. The product information should just match.
Yeah, well, clearly it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. So I asked them about that too. And eventually they said they're examining non-compliance issues related to generic finasteride. So they have started an investigation.
Oh, wow. So they're looking into this inconsistency that you discovered, Ty.
That's right. And there's some urgency here, Tom, because the TGA has already received 3 reports of suicide in Australia linked to finasteride. They're not confirmed cases, they're just reports, but clearly the concerns about this drug are growing. And there are other Aussies who feel like they had a near miss with the drug. Thanks for coming out, mate.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You got through and found it all right?
Yeah, it was fine. I got here way early.
We're calling this guy Angus. It's not his real name, Tom, but he wants to remain anonymous. It's February 2022, and at the recommendation of a friend, Angus has gone to the doctor to get finasteride.
I just thought, take pill, keep hair.
He's 33, living in Melbourne at the time, and just as he's starting to take finasteride, his career as a chef is on the up.
Doing pretty well, making a bit of a splash, I suppose. And the big thing was I had the most savings I'd ever had in my bank account, and I was sort of feeling like I was going somewhere.
But 5 days after taking the drug, he starts to get symptoms.
I got very, very agitated and kind of ragey. I was like really, really irritated with just everything, and I thought I was kind of having a nervous breakdown or something from work. A few days later, I really started to feel just not right, and I noticed like the loss of erections and stuff like that.
Those sexual side effects really freak Angus out. So he hops online, and soon he's on those PFS forums where he sees other men reporting the exact same experiences.
And that's when I went, oh, that could be surely related to that.
So he stops taking the drug.
And I remember my friends saying, oh, well, it'll flush out of your system and you'll feel better.
But he doesn't.
It just definitely got a lot worse over the coming months.
Angus experiences dozens of symptoms, physical symptoms.
I felt very weak and sick, and my stomach was bad for like a long time.
Neurological ones.
And I just couldn't focus on things. I guess brain fog, a very intense version of that.
Anhedonia, that strange zombie-like symptom.
It was like living in colour, and then all of a sudden someone turns the lights off and everything was black and white. And it was just that feeling of like, even if somebody told me that I'd won the lottery, I wouldn't really feel excited.
Angus says he had a bit of anxiety as a kid, but nothing too serious. And so after months of living like this, he finds himself in this terrible place, staring at the computer, Googling, what is the most painless way to suicide?
That was probably the most dark moment.
Wow. And this is months after he stopped the medication. 3 years on, Angus still has bouts of serious depression, but he thinks the suicidal ideation is over. He's since had his condition recognised by a GP and a urologist who helped him to develop a mental health plan and make an adverse drug report to the TGA. But still, his life has never really gotten back on track. Just describe the person you were before finasteride. Like, were you social, outgoing,
Very, yeah. Very social, very outgoing. Like, quick-witted, sharp. Everyone likes to say that about themselves, but I mean, I was definitely had a lot of energy to burn, and now I feel like I just don't have any energy or drive to do really anything.
He can no longer run a restaurant. Just showing up on time is hard. The savings he had have vanished, and this disorder, it's never far from his mind.
It's just been the most significant thing that's ever happened to me without a doubt. And there's not really an hour of the day that goes by without me thinking about it in some capacity.
All this stuff that's happened to him, Tom, he had no idea it was possible. So just to go back, your prescribing doctor initially didn't warn you about psychiatric side effects at all?
No, not at all. Nothing. No, he didn't warn me about any side effects.
Not even low libido, etc.?
No.
He's since told his mates to steer clear of finasteride.
Like a friend of mine has mentioned, I'm thinking about taking hair loss pills, and I'm like, don't touch it. And then I'll tell them my story, because I sort of don't tell that many people because it's so absurd sounding, and the way that people, obviously it's embarrassing.
Angus has never told his story to a journalist. He's only doing it now because finasteride is everywhere he looks.
I mean, it's horrifying enough that you can get it from a GP who doesn't even seem to know what they're handing out, or if they do know, then in my experience, not warning you about it.
And there's one specific way it's being prescribed that he's really worried about.
The online thing is even more fraught, I think, because how easy it would be to just sort of make a snap decision.
What Angus has recognised is that the explosion of telehealth clinics has made it easier than ever to get finasteride. It's put this stuff in front of more and more eyeballs via targeted and sophisticated ads on social media.
Ever notice there aren't any young bald celebrities anymore? Could be medical hair growth treatment. If you catch it early, you can stop it and even reverse.
Now, Tom, in Australia, it must be said that these companies, they're not allowed to say finasteride in the ads. But it's not hard to find out that that's what they're selling.
Guys see results and pilots.
In fact, some of them openly admit that they're all selling the same stuff.
Millions of men around the world use it too. So if you're seeing hair in the shower or your temples are thinning, don't wait till it's too late.
I've spoken to people who say they've had bad experiences with finasteride, as well as their family members and doctors and scientists. And these guys, they all worry that the ads are drowning out what warnings do exist.
Just years of seeing all those ads.
And Angus experienced that.
It didn't even really enter my mind that it could be dangerous. I didn't think, how does it stop you from going bald? I just thought, cool, not going bald.
And so here's the thing, in Australia, the telehealth, it's now this billion-dollar industry. And the companies, they're interesting because there's serious money behind them. Like Pilot, the one I applied through, it's owned by a company called Eucalyptus Health. It's this telehealth behemoth. Yeah. It's active in all sorts of spaces. It's
Australian?
Australian, yeah. It's got Pilot for men, Juniper for women, Kin for fertility, software for skincare, all these sort of targeted companies to sell specific medication. In an interview this year, like the boss of Eucalyptus said, we want to be, what do they call it? They want to achieve unicorn status.
What is
it means you're a billion-dollar company.
I see, right. Do we know how important finasteride is to Pilot? I mean, they must be selling a bit.
Well, they sell other things. You know, it's not just hair loss medication. They sell erectile dysfunction medication. They sell weight loss drugs.
Sure, okay.
But I have seen ads where they talk about around 50,000 hair loss patients in Australia.
In Australia, yeah, wow, okay.
And so Australian men like Andre, Angus and Mitch, they want to see all these guys, even the future finasteride users, given proper warnings. And they want these companies selling the drug to put money towards independent research into why the side effects occur.
I would hope in the future, you know, in my future at least, that there is more funding, research, tests. We devise some sort of plan. No clinician, no one who, people that have PhDs, they're very smart people, still can't figure this out and what's causing it.
And if these companies don't come to the table, Tom, they reckon the Australian health regulator, the TGA, should force them to.
Yeah, I would love to see evidence as to what is causing it and studies done that aren't just funded by the people that are suffering from it. It's kind of like a DIY thing. Giving blood and donating money, I've done those things. And, you know, it's a very slow process. But in the meantime, you know, people are killing themselves.
And so given that sense of momentum, are they feeling, you know, optimistic that things will change here?
Well, yes and no. 3 years later, Andre is still struggling with random anxiety attacks.
I had a wedding a couple of weeks back, September 20. My best mate, I was one of his groomsmen, and I was like, fuck, I really hope I don't get the urge to panic. And if I do this, it's all on camera, and I've fucked up this whole wedding. I've ruined, it's just stuff like that.
These attacks, they come and go, and Andre believes the only way he'll get better is via a scientific breakthrough. In the meantime, he's glad he took part in this story.
This stuff helps, you know, spreading awareness, being a part of the movement, hopefully also creating more of a brotherhood, I think, among the community.
But Angus is less optimistic about his future.
I have a pretty physical job and I don't really know how much longer I can keep it up.
He's out of savings now, but he still needs to turn up every day to the restaurant.
I have great concerns for employment, I guess, and just my body, because my body just feels like it's deteriorated so much.
He says before finasteride, he'd just cruise through a shift. But now after taking the drug,
I have to really push myself to do things.
He's developed this system, but it's fragile.
A lot of reminders, even just in a little mantra where I just tell myself to action something, because otherwise I'll think, oh yeah, I should probably do that, and I just won't do it.
And are you sort of resigned to the fact like this is your life now? Are you sort of hopeful?
Absolutely. No, I'm probably pretty cynical. I think a lot of people are kind of like, you know, they might find a cure in the next few years, and I think, oh boy, I don't think so.
If this story has raised any concerns for you or people close to you, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Next time on episode 2 of Before and After, how scrolling the internet is pushing people towards a major surgery.
I was curious. I was like, why would somebody want to break both perfectly good legs and go through months or a whole year of pain and sacrifice to gain a few inches?
That's next week on Background Briefing. Background Briefing sound producers are Lila Schunner and Ingrid Wagner. Sound engineering by Anne-Marie de Bettencourt. Fact-checking by Justine Landis-Hanley. Our rollout producer is Ben Sveen, and our digital producer is Rachel Clayton. Max Chalmers is our supervising producer. Vanu Falali is the executive producer, and the reporter on this story is Ty King. I'm Thomas O'Reilly. You can subscribe to Background Briefing on the ABC Listen app. Thanks for listening.